Hello, my name is Matt and this is Pixel Burn, where I take a look at some of the more interesting things that happened in gaming this week. This is also my 100th video. And with that out of the way, it's on to gaming news. In the dwindling hours of last weekend, Telltale Games put out the following teaser image for The Walking Dead Season 2, followed on Tuesday by a teaser trailer, recapping the areas visited in Season 1, and if you haven't bloody well played that yet, then you should click this spoiler button within the next 15 or so seconds. Seriously, this teaser trailer is a spoiler, so if you haven't finished Season 1 of The Walking Dead game by Telltale, then don't watch this trailer, or you'll be spoiled. Don't say you weren't warned. Actually, there's really not much to discuss here other than that Clementine is the new protagonist, as confirmed by Telltale themselves. It's many months after the climax of Season 1 and she's fending for herself. Aside from the continuation of Clementine's story, I'm really keen to see how Telltale addresses the different capabilities of a child character compared to an adult like Lee. Naturally, one thing I'm not looking forward to is more death scenes for Clementine. Don't think my heart could take it, to be honest. Season 2 is now available to pre-order on Steam, but that's not the only interesting bit of Telltale related news this week. According to an impromptu Q&A on Reddit, Telltale's Dan Connors said the following on the topic of dream IPs to make games about. Coming from LucasArts, we have so many people here that love Star Wars and have worked with a license, so that would be a great fit and very cool. In addition, we will be working on a few licenses that definitely fall into our dream IP scenario, and we can't wait to announce those. So we can likely expect a Star Wars adventure game of some kind, which sort of pisses all over my dream of a Telltale-made Twin Peaks game set after Season 2. Now that would fill my heart with wonder. The wisdom that I have known, a singular joy. In other news, according to an interview with journalist Glenn Greenwald in The Advocate this month, we have video games to thank for perpetually pop-collared whistleblower Edward Snowden, revealing the NSA's various dodgy shenanigans. Yes, apparently video games are indirectly responsible for one of the biggest intelligence leaks in history, the repercussions of which are still being felt worldwide. Well, makes a change from being blamed for childhood obesity and school shootings, I suppose. Speaking to The Advocate, Greenwald explained how he grilled Snowden about his motivations for going public with this information. None of the answers Greenwald received satisfied him until finally, after 6 hours of rapid-fire questions, Snowden caved in and sheepishly admitted his sense of morality, justice, and doing the right thing came from comic book and video game protagonists. Greenwald admits he doesn't know anything about games, or that Dungeons and Dragons shit, as he puts it, and so failed to ask Solid Snowden's Snakey to which games and comics were an influence. Not that Greenwald is disparaging games, far from it actually. In his own words, being influenced by the moral dynamics of a comic book or video game is no less noble than being shaped by a novel or book. All of the narratives are about these single individuals devoted to justice who have the willingness to be brave, who can defeat even the most powerful edifices of evil. So there you go, we can now legitimately say that video games helped expose government abuse of power, like Woodward and Bernstein, although some people would put a different spin on it. Coming up later on Fox News, we examine the shocking truth of how video games and comic books turned Edward Snowden into a traitor. We also expose Nintendo's links to the former Soviet Union and ask, what is Superman really teaching our children? All this and more tonight at 11, only on Fox. And while we're still on happy, shiny, positive news, Dreamfall creator Ragnar Tornquist and Oslo-based developer Red Thread Games have started working on a horror game called Draugen. Described as a dark and disturbing journey into the black heart of Norwegian national romanticism, Draugen will be a first-person survival horror adventure inspired by Scandinavian literature, Norse mythology and Icelandic sagas, set amidst the fjords and mountains of Norway's west coast in the early 1920s. The precious few screenshots and information available thus far make it look and sound somewhat like Amnesia crossed with Skyrim, which is more than enough to pique my interest. Hell, I'm interested in it purely for this piece of concept art, which reminds me of the old Infogrames adventure game Shadow the Comet, incidentally one of my all-time favourite horror games. That, and I'm a sucker for anything set in the jazz and cocaine days of the Roaring Twenties. It certainly impressed the Norwegian Film Institute, who recently granted Red Thread Games $144,000 towards development costs. As one developer blossoms, however, another sadly withers and dies, or in the case of Victory Studios, is brutally cut down like a toddler thrown under a combine harvester. Formerly known as BioWare Victory, Victory Studios had been quietly working on a new Command & Conquer game for Electronic Arts when this blog post appeared on the game's official website. Of particular interest is this line about refunding any and all money spent by testers in the alpha. Yes, the Command & Conquer reboot was to feature real money in-game purchases like just about every other poxy EA-produced game these days. In Command & Conquer's case, most of these purchases were outright touted as helping players level up faster, ostensibly for more choices. Because the first thing that comes to mind when I think real-time strategy is of course pissing away real money in-game.
Insufficient Vespine gas.
Have I got a deal for you?
Despite this one optimistic sentence about looking at alternatives to getting the game back on track, the chances of a new Command & Conquer ever seeing the light of day are slim to none. As well as outright pulling the plug on the game, Electronic Arts have also completely disbanded Victory Studios. I'd like to take this moment to offer my sincerest sympathies to former employees of Victory Studios and wish them the best of luck in finding jobs elsewhere in the industry. In terms of getting screwed over by EA, they're in good company. Bullfrog, Westwood, Origin, the original Origin, not the store they have now. And this week, Respawn Entertainment. If you're a prospective PS4 owner and you were looking forward to playing Titanfall at some point, maybe somehow in the future, EA's asked me to pass on the following message to you. Let's see. Eat shit, basically. During a conference call with investors, Electronic Arts Chief Financial Officer Blake Jorgensen revealed that the much anticipated first-person shooter will be exclusive to Xbox 360, Xbox One and PC only for the life of the title. Naturally, this will be something of a painful surprise for some of you, though nowhere near as painful or as much of a surprise as it was for Vince Zampella and the team at Respawn Entertainment, who are actually making the bloody game. Zampella tweeted that Respawn Entertainment's plan for Titanfall was for it to be a Microsoft exclusive at launch. As a relatively new startup working on a brand new IP, it made sense for them to focus on one console first, and they probably assumed they'd be able to branch out to a PS4 version later on. Plenty of third-party games had been temporarily exclusive to one console on release. The Mass Effect series, for example, was Xbox only for a long time before eventually coming to the PS3. Conversely, studios owned by Sony or Microsoft directly, like 343 Industries and Naughty Dog, will only put out games for their parent company's platform, so there's never any expectation of seeing Halo 4 or The Last of Us on anything else. In this case we have a weird mashup of both scenarios, with a promising third-party title press ganged by its publisher into being an Xbox exclusive, purely for the reason that some bastards in suits paid a load of money to another bunch of bastards in suits. Zampella was quick to make clear that this deal only applied for the first Titanfall, but who's to say EA wouldn't simply pull the same shit again with a hypothetical Titanfall 2? It also raises interesting questions about Microsoft's confidence in the run-up to the launch of the Xbox One. To get Titanfall as an exclusive, they'd have had to spend a pretty big chunk of money. Getting it as a permanent exclusive would have cost even more, since no publisher or developer can ignore the potential money to be made from a game being on as many platforms as possible. Unless you're EA, it seems. And if certain rumours are true, the Xbox One version will still only run in 720p resolution, albeit scaled up so everything looks blurry, kinda like if your eyeballs were coated in Vaseline. As it stands, the only way you'll get to play Titanfall in glorious true 1080p, running at 60 frames per second, is naturally on PC. This may not sound much to you, but the difference in visual fidelity between the two is significant and painfully obvious. Anyone who tells you otherwise is either a liar or legally blind. And quite likely stupid. The ultimate tragedy of Titanfall's permanent exclusivity is that it wasn't the choice of Respawn Entertainment. It was a deal brokered entirely by EA with no consideration given towards either the developer or their fans. EA gets a chunk of money, Microsoft gets a selling point for the Xbox One that isn't TV related. Meanwhile, Respawn Entertainment get less people playing their game, and a somber reminder of the reason they left Activision in the first place, namely loss of creative control. That's all for this episode of Pixel Burn. If you enjoyed it, then please do let me know. At the very least, I hope you found it vaguely tolerable. If you didn't enjoy it, then I look forward to making 100 more videos. You can go now.